I can tell you one thing, my life has drastically changed. Well, first, my life has drastically changed now that I no longer am on social media, right? Drastically changed. Vast stretches of available time that weren't there before. And I combine that with time blocking, where I'm like adhering to a time block. Also, vast change. So I can get 3 times as much, and I'm fairly prolific as is, but I can get 3 times as much done just by those 2 things. Yeah. So it doesn't mean you have to stop all of that, but you can also learn how to tighten procedures so that your energy doesn't leak everywhere. Yeah. Because that's one of the worst things that people don't know about, is where their energy leaks. And then by the time you get to the intimate relationship, you're zapped, because all day long you had this drip of, energy going out to things that are not useful. So it's really good on occasion to do a complete review of how you spend your time. I do it every couple of months, where I toggle for a week. You know what? It's an app on the phone where you track what you're doing. So just you can have it itemized, but I have it says, one for email, one for meetings, one for whatever, lunchtime, scrolling on social media, blah, blah, blah. And so anytime I start something, I press the button, and then I stop, I stop it. And then I look a week and I see where my energy and my time goes. And then I go, well, why in the world did I spend 16 hours this week reading the news? Yeah, and then that goes, or gets drastically reduced. I also have Freedom, which is another app that is, amazing, where you can lock yourself out of stuff. Yeah, so I only allow myself Instagram for an hour a day, between 12 and 1 in the middle of the day, which is a highly unlikely time to scroll. So if I have to post something or want to see something, I can do it between 12 and 1. The rest of the time, Freedom has locked me out of that app. Yeah, and it's so good. Now I still do it, and I bought the Pro version, where you can have an option where you can't get out. Right? Because with the regular app, you can stop it, but there's a Pro version where you can determine that nothing is going to open your Instagram. And that's quite useful. Just let me tell you. So I'm saying all of this to say you will feel the erosion of energy, and it is not because you're getting older, and it's not your hormones. It's that you have too many open applications, so to speak, and you have to kind of tighten procedure, and then the energy comes back towards what you want to, which is a joyous life with your partner. Right. Then you can allocate some of that. Yeah. And this could also be things like you do workouts together, for instance. New is always better than old. Well, resentment is a psychological issue and not a yogic issue, meaning resentment needs to be excavated and rooted out, so to speak. It's a little bit like weeding, right? So from a yogic standpoint, we could assume that resentment is there, right? So when I'm saying yogic, what I'm talking about is essentially energy, right? And so we can assume that in the conduction of energy, there will be resistance, right? Like if I used to have a different stereo system, and it no longer connected via YouTube or Bluetooth, so I had to run this entire cable to where I was sitting, and the music quality was absolute dog shit. Why? Because there was too much resistance in the line, right? That's your resentment. So you might still you still play the music, but it just doesn't sound very good. It's still enjoyable music, but it just doesn't sound very good. So you could look at resentment like that and go, it will happen. Now let's see how we can get around it, right? Instead of address it. And then address it psychologically, meaning sit down, talk about things, go to a therapist, discuss stuff that needs to be cleaned up. But in the moment, you can go, Well, I'm assuming resentment sounds something like, well, why should I do that? The last time I did that, she wasn't in the mood. And then I was like all dressed up and good to go. And then it was like I'm making her do things when she's already very tired. And I'm not going to do that again. Something like that. Right? So then that's fair, right? You've had a negative experience. And so now you can essentially reduce your energy or reduce your music output by the negative experience, or you can go, well, let me try something different. Those are your options. And one of the things that happens to us as humans is we've learned to press a button and that's produced a result, and now we're like, bing, 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 right? Yes, like lab rats. We don't go, maybe there's different food over here. What's that button about? We're like, button, press, something came out, now it's not coming out, gonna press, oh, there it is again, intermittent reward, right? That's, you know the whole Skinnerian scenario, right? You could just go, fuck that button, let me go over here, let me do something else. Let's give it a try. And that's why the purpose of the relationship comes in, because the resentment is essentially, this is a little bit what he's describing. The resentment is essentially a moment of misalignment. And you can always go meta and go, what are we really about? Right? Is me having resentment going to make that happen? The answer is always no. Right? It's not to say that you don't deal with it psychologically, but yogically, you just don't go down that path. No. You do need a North Star in the relationship. Then you have to be adult enough to go, fuck all of this resentment stuff. We're going to have joy tonight. No. And that tends to somewhat overcome that. Yeah. Now, this is not always true, because sometimes people have resentment that's like 40 years old and it will never die, right? I mean, there's people like that, and they actually thrive on that resentment, and that's their relationship. But if you don't want that, then you deal with the resentment in conversation or in therapy, and when it crops up, you'll walk around it. All right. Okay, back to the anger. So essentially what you're saying, I'm just pointing this out, right? This is normal stuff, but I'm going to say that he's getting punished for stuff that you did before he came along, right? Which is something that you can work on, obviously, because it's not his fault. He's not your past partner, and this is not the relationship where that's the case. And if it is, you can address it because you can actually talk about stuff. But essentially, this is what happens. We bring our partners in, right, all the time. No, it's a thing. And but this is an important thing about the dynamic, and then we'll take a pee break, I promise. So you essentially made a decision that you can verbalize prioritized food waste and prior relationship considerations over his desire. Yes, you did, because you came to the table all squirrely. So, so we'll freeze the frame here. We'll go back to you, right? So you were saying, I felt anger. I dealt with it. I dug deep. I didn't just attack her. I just went, why is that, right? But like any good people pleaser, when you actually assert your, well, let's say recovering people pleaser, right? Like any recovering people pleaser, when you actually assert your need, you're going to have residue. So I want to know if the thing that you feel that's still there, anger-wise, is residue from actually having asserted your need, or tried to at least get under why your need wasn't fulfilled, or are you still holding, well, after all was said and done, my need is still not fulfilled. There's still a bit of anger in there. There's still something in there. Let's call it an energy. There's still an energy. Is that energy the energy of actually having spoken up for the thing you needed, and now you feel there might be punishment for that? Well, that's why I was asking so specifically, because part of what you're both describing is old patterns. So it doesn't matter where they're coming from. In your case, it's a traumatic upbringing or a very specific thing around not having received nurturing and love in the form that would have worked for you. And food, of course, for a child particularly, is one of the prime ways to feel that you're cared for, right? And so part of your sadness is not that she made a decision for the, for the ecology over the thing that is, it's a remnant of that old pattern. Part of her behavior is a remnant of that old pattern. That's a matter of essentially dealing with individually, where you deal with the traumas of your upbringing by self-nurturing and doing the thing you're doing, which is asking for what you need and being very clear, and also being very clear when you're upset. So that's all very healthy and good. And for you, right, having verbalized that, maybe next time you can go, yeah, he's not that guy and he wants that food, fuck it, I'm going to give him the thing that he wants, right? Because you knew it. Next time when you feel the way you felt, you'll probably just walk back and get that damn plate, right? Because it doesn't matter. You can always take it to go. If he liked it in the morning, he'll like it later in the afternoon too. Or not, doesn't matter. But it is old stuff. But part of it, and that's the part that's the more important or interesting part, is what do you do with, like you said, the remnant of the energy? Because the thing might take its course, but in the body, you still have de-escalation to do for both of you, right? You probably felt like you were in trouble. Yes, and then you feel like, he's going to be mad all day, which is probably a pattern that you know from either your childhood or your last relationship, where you're now dealing with a dude with seething resentment who does all kinds of passive-aggressive shit, which he's not, right? So, but you have stuff, so your body goes like, and you're constantly checking if he's okay, right? And you, on the other hand, are, going, I'm not being cared for the way I want to be cared for by my partner. And it's very sad, but I understand, but because I'm very reasonable, I'm a chill guy, and, so I'm going to be cool because it's really not that big of a deal, but, so there is that. That's normal, right? And you can verbalize that. But then the next thing you do, what you do is you praise your partner for the things that they did do, right? So you essentially give the nurturing that you would like to receive. That's how you do it, right? And you give the emotion that you'd like to receive. So you probably needed reassurance, so you give him reassurance. You needed nurturing, you give her nurturing. Yeah, and then that's kind of the counter poison to the lack, meaning you pull the thing that you think you can have out and give it. And then, of course, that gives it to you as well, right? So you turn to her and you go, there's many ways that you do nurture me, and here they are, right? And you give the thing that you want always. That's the trick. Because you're never going to get the thing that you want in that moment, because otherwise you wouldn't be feeling the thing that you're feeling, right? So the only way out of that hole is you give it. You find that hole and you kind of fill it up with your praise, right? And then we're done. The first thing to say is that the fact that you're feeling all of this means your heart is open. And very often when our heart's open, the first thing we have is like sadness and teary feeling and stuff like that. That's not necessarily devastating heartbreak. It's just feeling, right? And often feeling comes with tears and So that's a good thing, right? Your heart is relaxing and opening. Rejection is like crack cocaine, right? Particularly in relationship, where something that clearly isn't for you is taken, you want it, right? It's a very specific thing. And the god-awful truth is that this, whatever the rejection was, has absolutely nothing to do with you. Now, that should be a relief, but it's not, because you are going, if I can figure out what it is, I can fix it. Right? And that's what gets you hooked. You want to somehow overcome the rejection. But it isn't about you. The question is here is, why are you not rejecting somebody who rejects you? That's the question, right? So, and the question to that's we don't have to go there now, but the question is, why are you allowing yourself to be at the mercy of somebody who is clearly not capable of engaging with you, right? And so you're essentially going, well, if I could just hear that he doesn't want me, then maybe I could move on. But you could also just go, fuck that, I'm moving on, right? This isn't my guy, not even close. So the question is, why are you not doing that? And that question is, and this is why it's interesting that this is somebody that you know from growing up, because we will find the answer to that question in your parental relationship, right? So the way that you look at that is you go, how is this like my upbringing? Why is a guy from my upbringing the arbiter of my self-worth, right? And then you do the move that is the opposite of that. Right? And so what I mean by that is you go, oh, I know what that is. And then you go, well, I'm an adult. How would I not be that? And then that's what you do. Whatever that is. You can percolate over that overnight, and then tomorrow in the Q&A we can see if we can drill down on an actual action, so that you're free from that and you can actually move on to somebody who wants you, of which there's many, but you don't want them because they want you. Yeah. So right, so we're going to have to make our way around the back of that building, so to speak. So think about it, and we'll pick it up tomorrow.